This is Casey Kasem in Hollywood, and now I have the fourth of our debut songs. This is by a new group who say that the biggest obstacle they faced trying to get started was their name. You see, they took the name of the sunflower state, Kansas. And Kerry Livgren, the writer and keyboard man with the group, told us that whenever they'd call record companies or promoters trying to get a contract or a job, people would expect to see a bluegrass group. Expect them to show up in overalls and chewing on a piece of straw. It was the same wherever they went, he says. Even their first record company wanted to promote them as an all-American bicentennial homegrown band of cowboy musicians. And when they tried to get some attention from members of the press, rock critics weren't exactly jumping at the chance to review a concert group by the name of Kansas. Well, after several years of struggling in their home state, their loyal core of local fans is spreading. And they've hit the album charts. This week, they have their first hit single. It's the highest debuting song of the week. At number 36, here's Kansas with Carry On Wayward Son.
Carry on my wayward son, Casey's Coast to Coast.
This is Casey Kasem in Hollywood on American Top 40, and now I have the song by the rock group who once sat in a bar where they worked and watched a disgruntled customer enter the place by driving his car through the wall. The group is Kansas, and the most insane night of their career, they told us, happened 4 years ago in Des Moines, Iowa, at a saloon called Fat Albert's. They were hired for the week during the Iowa State Fair, and on their first night, the club was jammed. 20 minutes into their first set, a huge fight broke out between two motorcycle gangs, and it was so wild, they said, that it looked like one of those phony barroom brawls that you see in B-Westerns. But this one wasn't funny. A lot of people were hurt, and a lot of furniture was busted up. Well, it was only a few minutes until the place was empty, because the peaceful folks left when the fight started, and the gang members took off before the police arrived. So there sat the 6 members of the group Kansas, trying to console the owner who had just watched his saloon being destroyed. And to make it more annoying, some guy kept walking in every couple of minutes demanding to be served. And the owner kept throwing him out, telling him that they were closed. But the persistent little guy came back one last time, in his car, which he drove right through the wall. And it was no accident. He had complete control. He gave the owner a look that meant, don't mess around with me, then threw it in reverse and backed out of the saloon through a different wall. And that's how Kansas spent their first night at Fat Albert's during the Iowa State Fair. Their first big hit falls 3 notches this week to number 14.
American Top 40.
This is Casey Kasem in Hollywood, and now we're up to the second top 40 hit by a Midwestern group who really try to do right by their employees. In fact, 5 years ago, they were paying their road crew more than they were making themselves. The group is a 6-man band called Kansas, and we got the story from their lead singer, Steve Walsh. He told us that during the early 70s, when they were getting started, they were playing in small bars and clubs all over Kansas. They earned about $100 a job and played 3 or 4 jobs a week. Not big money by any means, but enough to feed 6 guys on a regular basis. But for a small-time band, Kansas was putting on anything but a small-time show. You see, they figured the best way to make a name for themselves and to get that big break they needed was to make a lasting impression on their audiences. To do this, they bought lots of fancy, expensive equipment fit for a supergroup, and the very best instruments and amplifiers that credit would buy. They also hired a 2-man road crew to carry that equipment around and to set it up at their performances. Well, the payments on all that gear were so huge that after expenses, their monthly budget left about $250 to pay the road crew and a split among the 6-man band. So, as an incentive to the road crew to stick it out with the band during those hard times, the group decided to pay the roadies a higher wage than they were earning themselves. $10 a week, which averages out to about $1.43 a day. And that left just $7 a week for each member of the band. Well, the lead singer Steve Walsh tells us that sometimes things were so bad, the group was forced to borrow food money from the 2 men who were working for them. But things are definitely looking up now. The last album by Kansas sold nearly 3 million copies, which ought to buy enough groceries to feed the group and their roadies for quite a while. This week, Kansas debuts with their second top 40 hit at number 38. This is Point of No Return.
American Top 40.
This is Casey Kasem, and on we go with our countdown of the year's 100 top hits. The 39th biggest hit is by a group who first got together right in the middle of the USA. The geographic center is in the state of Kansas near the town of Lebanon, and this 6-man rock band formed in Topeka. Then they named themselves after the state. They started touring, making records, getting hits, and now have pretty much settled down in Georgia, around Atlanta. Here's Kansas with the 39th top song of the year, Dust in the Wind.
I close my eyes, only for a moment, and the moment's gone. American Top 40.
Well, now we're up to a band who were so unpopular on the club circuit in their hometown of Topeka, Kansas, that club owners just stopped hiring them. They started out back in 1970 as a 6-man band playing hit songs in some pretty low-down bar rooms. But original member Dave Hope says they were so awful at playing other people's hits that they started doing their own original songs. At that time, Dave says they were playing a weird improvisational music inspired by Frank Zappa. Not exactly the kind of music the people of Topeka wanted to dance to. And the band became known as Dance Floor Poison. They were using the name Kansas at the time, and soon none of the clubs would book them. So they started calling themselves White Clover. People thought they were a new band, and that brought them a few rounds of bookings. But White Clover wasn't rolling in clover. Each member was surviving on $1 a day. That's $1 a day per man. Finally, White Clover went completely to seed. But a few months later, they reformed with a new determination and the old name, Kansas. Few months after that, the big break finally came. Kansas were playing in a club in Dodge City when Kirshner Records phoned from New York. The company said they wanted to sign them to a recording contract. Drummer Phil Ehart said it was like we'd been saved. Somebody just threw us a rope. No more seedy bar rooms for Kansas. No more name-changing games either. 14 years later, the band now live in Atlanta, Georgia. But they're still Kansas, and their current hit is at number 38. It's called All I Wanted.
You say it's time
As the countdown continues.
Casey's Coast to Coast.